Welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. I just want to say, Camilla, we miss you, and I hope we see you next time. Camilla Cleese, John's daughter. We are with
And
John.
she's writing with me, and I'm kind of horrified because I have a nasty feeling she's getting better than I am. She's very smart, and she learns so fast, and she keeps making suggestions, which I don't mind, and I don't like the suggestion. And then the next day, I realize it's a good suggestion.
It's good. Does that make you? That's you've got to be proud.
Yes, of course I am.
That means you're
what
a
is
good
it
teacher.
like writing? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just meant that means you've been a good teacher, like if she's getting better and
yes,
better.
But I tell you, you know what makes a good teacher? A good pupil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it the joy of your life to be able to work with your daughter in this way?
Yes,
and
it
know
is.
that you're passing on.
I feel a great sense of pride.
Yeah.
And when she suddenly comes up with one of her extraordinary ideas, which are really wonderful. I mean, there's a fast scene in a fish called Wanda, and she's added 3 completely different sections to it. And it is now, we read it the other day, and I could hardly read it. I was laughing so much, and other people in the room were crying. It's one of the funniest things I've ever read, but it was funny written. It was funny to start with, but she has come up with 3 other things that we've stitched into it that have made it even better. But the thing about play is all important because there was a very important research done at Berkeley by a guy called McKinnon in the 60s. And he was the one, first of all, he admired architects because they're very smart people. I mean, they got to be creative, but also they have to be very logical because otherwise their beautiful thing will fall down. So he was fascinated by the fact they had to be very disciplined and very creative. And he went to the best respected ones, and ones that all the other architects say, oh, he's incredibly creative or she's incredibly creative. And he found out what they did from the moment they got up in the morning, the moment they went to bed at night. And then he went to some of the less creative architects, although he didn't tell them that was why he was talking to them, and asked them. And there were only 2 differences, nothing to do with IQ. The creative ones knew how to play. And the other thing was they tried to defer making a decision as long as they could. Now, people say, well, no. The first question you ask, and I learned this when I had a company that taught management skills, the first question you ask if you have a decision to make is, when does it have to be made? And once that's clear, that's a real world decision. I have to make it by Wednesday, or I don't have to make it this month. Then you don't make it till then. But no, people don't like leaving it unresolved. So they rush into making a decision. And if you leave it longer, 2 things happen. You can get new information and you can get new ideas. So why rush it? And I think Americans in particular rush decisions to make themselves look decisive. No, make a decision when you have to and not before, and then you'll get a better decision. So that and then I read a book about play, and the guy said play is only possible if there's a boundary, like in football. You blow the whistle, everybody starts playing soccer, and then you blow the whistle 90 minutes, and they all stop. And during that time, no one's allowed to come onto the pitch. So you have to create a space where you're not going to be interrupted, and then you have to do it for a fixed period of time. And at the end of it, the real life comes in, and you go off and buy a present for the cat.
And stuffed animals. I've got a lot of stuffed animals. How many do you have now?
About 400.
400.
Yes, because they all make me laugh. If I see a stuffed animal that makes me laugh, my wife and I buy it immediately.
Do you have the fish that was from
Yes,
Wanda? Do you
yes.
have the fish stuffed animal?
We had
that.
Yes,
good.
I have to admit, I had a Zoom with John about a year ago, and we were talking about a business matter, and all of a sudden he had a stuffed animal tiger on his shoulder through the rest of but he never explained why, and he never said, and I didn't know this about you.
Stuffed animal.
So
the Germans make great ones. You start smiling. I don't know why. I mean, animals.
But I was
wonderful.
trying not to smile and be serious with a business conversation, and then for like a month, I'm like, What was up with the stuffed animal? I just didn't know it. Anyone ask
Well,
you?
we had to, Gary Chapman and I had one occasion, we had to go and have a Hollywood film producer come to our tour the flat. And I had a lot of stuffed animals in those days. And we hid all these stuffed animals, right? So
Hilarious.
they were peeping over the curtain to see what we know, sitting on a bookshelf behind a book. And I thought he'd never noticed them. I honestly thought that this guy had never noticed. We had a perfectly ordinary meeting, and then he shook our sleeve and said, "Great animals." He must have seen them all looking at him. Yeah.
So you're thinking it's just like Eddie, like, what is up with it?
But you said
Should I
you
say
said something
something?
earlier.
Yeah.
Let me just say this. People don't understand the difference between serious and solemn. Solemn is no humor, and that's funerals. You see what I mean? You're not supposed to laugh in funerals. You laugh with your best friend, but you don't let anyone else in the church know that you're laughing. You see, that's solemn. Serious is simply that you're talking about something important, but you can be laughing about it. Doesn't mean the discussion isn't serious. So people don't, they think if there's humor, it's not serious. No, humor can be very serious. Wonderful example, Dr. Strangelove.
Arwen.
Well, I want to talk about Fawlty Towers really quick too.
What's it called?
Fawlty Towers. Isn't it called Fawlty Towers?
Yes,
I was
it
like,
is.
did I mispronounce it?
No. I'm just playing.
See, I can't take a joke. I'm the most gullible person in the world.
The funny thing is, my wife, who is one of the worst practical jokers, is also wonderfully gullible. Is that funny?
Yeah,
I think
fun.
people who are very good at other people's gullibility are also very gullible themselves. Odd rule. Sorry, go on.
Oh, well, I just wanted to say, where did you find the humor in that? Had you ever worked in the service industry, or where did you get the psychology behind, the
Well,
script?
it was based on Basil Fawlty was based on a guy who actually ran a hotel.
Mhm.
And the Pythons went to stay at the hotel because we were filming on the south coast in Torquay. And we turned up at this guy's hotel. It was called Glen Eagles. And he was just wonderfully rude. He was gloriously rude, but for no reason. You see, it wasn't that he was angry or cross. He was just rude because his motto, the British hotelier's motto, is we could run this hotel properly if it wasn't for the guests. And here are the guests coming along and screwing up what would otherwise be a smooth running hotel. Yeah. And Connie was staying because she used to do a lot of work with Python. She was filming. And sometime later, about 18 months later, when the BBC said to me, "What would you like to do?" I said, "I'd like to write something with my wife." And they said, "What?" I said, "I don't know." And I went back and said to Connie, "What are we going to write?" Within 10 minutes, we said, "Let's set it in that hotel we stayed in."
Great.
The rest is history.
Yeah, the
I'm with-
rest is history. And what was funny was that when we went down later to look at the hotel after I'd written the series, he'd retired and he had gone to Miami. But they showed 2 episodes of it to his daughter, who was about 23. And his daughter had never seen the show. And she watched it. And at the end of the second show, she turned to the journalist who showed it to her and said, "That's done."
Oh my gosh. That's so funny. And like, he probably was like, wait, they've just made a whole TV series about me. Oh my God, that's too funny.
Well, he's not with us anymore, but his
Aw.
wife, when he died, wrote a letter to the local paper saying it was a travesty. He was nothing like Basil Fawlty at all.
Oh,
And it got printed in all the national papers because it's so popular in England. And the letters started pouring into the newspaper saying, no, he was exactly like that.
that's too funny.
Yeah, it's wonderful, yeah.
Poor
I'm
guy.
with Arwen Lewis. Thanks for joining us, Arwen. Dr. D, Richard Dugan's on the soundboard, and the great John Cleese. has graced us with his presence here in Santa Barbara at the studios.
You wait till you see the bill.
I know we can't afford him. Do you take payments?